Hey guys, today we're diving into something you've never questioned because it seems so obvious. What you see. You're walking down the street, the sun setting behind the buildings, and a dog trots past you. Its fur catches the light. You register the color, the size, the bark. It's real, you tell yourself. You saw it. But here's the twist. What you saw wasn't the dog. It was an interpretation, your brain's best guess. Your eyes are just lenses. They don't see anything. They collect data shapes, colors, shadows, and then your brain steps in like a frantic editor with a deadline. It grabs bits and pieces of light, fills in the gaps, and hands you a finished picture. That might be wrong. You don't notice the blind spot in each eye, right? That's not because it isn't there. It's because your brain paints over it. It fabricates a chunk of your vision every second, and you never realize. There's a reason people argue over the color of a dress online. It's not because one side is stupid. It's because perception is not passive. It's creative. You don't see with your eyes. You see with your brain. Now imagine you're at a magic show. The magician waves one hand. You follow it. The other hand does the trick. You never stood a chance. Why? Because your attention isn't infinite. Your mind filters, deletes, prioritizes. You think you see the whole scene, but you're getting maybe 20%. That filtering kept your ancestors alive. In a forest full of rustling leaves and danger, the brain had to scream, focus on the tiger. So today, when someone yells your name in a crowd, you snap to attention. Your brain is still doing triage. But this survival trick has a price. Your reality is edited, biased, and sometimes just plain wrong. Maybe you've stared at someone's face and suddenly it looked off. That's called the uncanny valley. Your brain's facial recognition software glitched. It happens. And when it does, you get a glimpse of the machinery behind your perception. The brain's job isn't to show you the truth. It's to show you what's useful. That means you're walking through life guided not by reality, but by an illusion that works just well enough. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments, what's the weirdest illusion or trick your eyes have ever fallen for? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into a bathroom and look into the mirror. That face staring back, are you sure it's yours? You blink. It blinks. You smile. It follows. Seems real. But give it a few seconds stare without breaking eye contact. The edges of your face start to blur. Your skin seems waxy. The mirror distorts. That's not horror. That's neurology. Every day, you're surrounded by illusions. Small ones, subtle ones. You just don't notice them because your brain is really good at pretending. Take a city street. You're driving and the road ahead looks like it curves gently right. But once you get closer, it's perfectly straight. Why? Because shadows from the buildings shifted your depth perception. The lines you trust for distance converging, parallel, receding, are all vulnerable to context. Even trained pilots sometimes misjudge a landing strip because of visual illusions. You look at a spoon in a glass of water. It's broken. Not literally, but refracted. Your brain knows this trick and corrects it for you. But that's the thing. Your correction is learned, not natural. Here's another one. Ever parked your car and suddenly felt like it was rolling backward, only to realize the car beside you was moving? That's induced motion. Your senses lied. Your body didn't move, but it felt like it did. Or maybe you've seen the checker shadow illusion. Two tiles, A and B, one dark, one light. But surprise, they're the same shade. Your brain, trying to be helpful, compensates for the shadow. It guesses what it should be seeing, And it's wrong. These illusions aren't bugs, they're features, evolutionary shortcuts. You can't process every photon, every angle, every shift in light. So the brain takes a shortcut. It fills in. And most of the time, it works just fine. But every now and then, a shortcut fails, and you glimpse the glitch. There's a reason magicians, pickpockets, and advertisers thrive. They don't hack reality. They hack your perception. They know the blind spots, the gaps, the moments your brain is most likely to smooth over. A quick movement, a shiny object, a half-second pause. These are enough to reroute your entire experience. Even your own face is a kind of illusion. Studies show that people perceive themselves as about 20% more attractive than they are. Not out of arrogance, but because your brain wants you to feel okay about yourself. So when someone says perception is reality, they're kind of right and totally wrong. Your perception feels real, but it's built on scaffolding that shifts, bends, and collapses under pressure. Remember the mirror? Next time, stare longer. Watch what your brain does. That's not just your face. That's your neural editor, hard at work, lying with love. You're sitting at dinner with an old friend. They bring up that school trip to the mountains. How you got lost, how it rained for hours, how you cried under that broken pine tree. You laugh, but deep down, something feels off. You don't remember crying. You're sure you didn't. You remember the sun, the joy, the weird soup at the cabin. So who's right? Maybe neither of you. Memory isn't a recording. It's a reconstruction, like putting together a puzzle where the pieces change shape every time you touch them. And sometimes you're not even using your own puzzle pieces. When you remember something, your brain doesn't play it back. Instead, it rebuilds the scene based on fragments, emotions, smells, sounds, your current mood, and critically expectations. Your memory is what now you thinks then you would have experienced. And that makes it incredibly fragile. Here's a famous experiment. Researchers showed people a video of a car crash. Later, they asked, how fast was the car going when it smashed into the other? Another group got the same question, but with the word hit instead. The group with smashed estimated higher speeds and remembered broken glass that wasn't there. One word rewrote their memory. Even more terrifying, people have confessed to crimes they didn't commit because they started to remember committing them. That's the dark magic of suggestion, authority, and repetition. Say it enough, and the mind weaves it in. Your memory is constantly edited by emotion. A bad breakup? Over time, your brain may dull their good qualities to protect you. A childhood pet? You might remember it being wiser, more loving than it ever was, because nostalgia adds glow. And it gets weirder. Every time you recall a memory, your brain resaves it, like opening a file, changing it, and saving over the original. The act of remembering corrupts the memory. So the things you think about the most, they may be the least accurate. Even group memories, the ones shared by families or nations, are constructed. Collective storytelling reinforces certain details while others vanish. You remember what the group needs to remember. So when your friend insists it rained on that mountain trip, maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. But one thing's certain. The version you carry is yours alone, fragile, shifting, stitched together by a brain that cares more about meaning than accuracy. And that's kind of beautiful, and kind of terrifying. You're sitting alone, scrolling through your phone, and you suddenly hear your name clear as day from another room. You freeze. Nobody's home. Your heart jumps. Was that real? A ghost? The wind? Or something deeper? What you heard might not have existed at all, but your brain did. Sound is more than vibration. It's suggestion, memory, emotion. Your ears pick up the waves, sure, but your brain decides what they mean. And that decision is messy. Take the McGurk effect. You watch a video of someone mouthing ba while the audio says fa. What do you hear? Fa. Because your brain doesn't just listen, it looks. It merges the sound and the sight into a new, entirely invented perception. Your ears can be fooled by your eyes, but it gets weirder. You've probably heard of Yanny versus Laurel. That viral clip where half the internet swore it said one thing, the other half something else. They were both right. It depended on your age, your speakers, even your expectations. What you expected to hear nudged what you actually did. Expectation is everything. If you're afraid at night, every creak becomes a threat. If you're listening for something, you'll find it even if it isn't there. That's why ghost hunters always hear whispers, and why parents swear they hear their baby crying even when it's quiet. It's not imagination. It's perception primed by fear, love, or worry. Even music isn't safe. Play a song backward and tell someone there's a hidden satanic message. They'll hear it. Their brain will find it. But strip away the context, it's just noise. Your sense of hearing is so manipulable that entire industries are built on it. Movie sound designers layer dozens of noises, footsteps, paper rustles, a soft hum to make you feel a scene is real. Most of it, you don't consciously notice, but your brain soaks it up like emotional fuel. The most fascinating part? The sounds you don't hear? Your brain actively ignores most background noise. The fridge hum, the distant traffic, the ticking clock. You train yourself to unhear things. This is called auditory habituation. You're surrounded by sound, but only notice what matters emotionally. So that voice you thought you heard, that whisper when you're half asleep, it might not have been real. Or maybe it was just not in the way you think. Your ears pick up the vibrations, but it's your mind that tells the story. You reach out and touch your phone. It's solid, cool, familiar. But here's the kicker. You never actually touch it. At the atomic level, the electrons in your skin repel the electrons in the phone. Technically, you're always hovering, always a fraction away. But you feel it. Your brain says you're touching it. Touch is our most intimate sense, the one we trust without question. A hug means safety. A sharp object triggers alarm. Pain tells you something is wrong. Except, not always. Let's talk about pain. It feels like a signal from your body. But really, it's a story your brain writes after reviewing evidence. That burn from the stove? Yes, the nerves fired. But your brain decided how much to care. In fact, you can get hurt and not feel it for minutes. Soldiers on the battlefield run on broken legs. Marathoners cross finish lines with torn muscles. Why? Because their brain said, not yet. And it works the other way too. There are people with phantom limb pain. They feel burning, crushing agony in a leg that's no longer there. The nerves are gone. The limb is gone. But the sensation is very real. It's the brain again, recycling old wiring. Even more bizarre? The rubber hand illusion. A subject places one hand out of sight, while a fake rubber hand is placed in view. Both the real hand and rubber one are stroked simultaneously. Within minutes, the subject starts feeling the touch in the rubber hand and even flinches if it's injured. The body map in the brain updates, just like that. Your sense of space, where your limbs are, how tall you are, how close someone is, relies on what's called proprioception. But that too can be fooled. Ever stepped off an escalator that isn't moving? That weird jolt? That's your proprioception arguing with gravity. You don't just feel the world, you build a model of it. And like any model, it can be wrong. Think of a time you were startled by a gentle tap, or when a hot shower felt painfully hot after being in the cold. Context changes everything. Touch isn't just physical, it's emotional, social, and wildly subjective. Which means even the most real sensations, the ones that seem to confirm your existence, are laced with deception. So when you say, "I know it's real, I felt it," maybe pause. Your body isn't a truth machine. It's a theater with excellent stage design. We've now reached the end of the first act, and it's time to breathe. Let's slow down for a moment. You've walked through your senses like rooms in a dream. Touch, sight, sound, memory, they've comforted you, warned you, maybe even defined you. But now you see the cracks. You see how easily they bend. It's not meant to make you feel lost. It's meant to remind you you've been navigating a story, one told by evolution, emotions, and electrical signals. And that story, it's beautiful, even in its flaws. So take a breath. Let the air remind you you're still here. Whatever's real or not, this moment is yours. Dim the lights. Pull the blanket closer. Let's rest here, just for now. I'll be waiting when you're ready to move on. You're falling asleep and suddenly feel like you're dropping. Your body jerks awake. No cliff, no fall. Just the terrifying echo of a dream collapsing. That jolt? It's called a hypnic jerk, and it's one of the many little illusions your body throws at you. This episode isn't about big philosophical theories. It's about the weird stuff. The things that happen to you all the time that make no sense. Until you realize your perception engine is glitchy by design. Let's start with the phantom phone vibration. You swear your phone buzzed. You check it. Nothing. This sensation is so common it has a name. Phantom vibration syndrome. Your brain, trained to expect a buzz, starts inventing one. Anticipation creates sensation. Or take motion after effect. You stare at a waterfall for a few minutes, then look away, and the rocks seem to drift upward. Your visual system adapted to downward motion, and now it's balancing the input by swinging the other way. It's like your eyes are still rocking long after the boat ride ends. Ever listen to the same word on repeat, say, window, until it starts sounding like gibberish? That's semantic satiation. Your brain detaches sound from meaning when overwhelmed by repetition. You literally unhear the word. Then there's pareidolia, seeing faces in toast, clouds, or power outlets. Your brain is so hungry for human features, it assembles them from random patterns. It's not wrong, it's just eager. Or maybe you've had sleep paralysis. You wake up but can't move, and you feel a presence in the room. Sometimes you even see shadowy figures. This terrifying illusion is your dreaming brain leaking into your waking body, like the two worlds didn't untangle fast enough. And it's not just sight and sound. Ever get chills from a song? That's your emotional system firing dopamine into your skin. Frisson, a shiver born not of cold, but of meaning. Or taste, did you know that color can change flavor? Serve the same wine in a red glass versus a blue one, and people will describe it completely differently. Your expectation flavors your experience before your tongue gets involved. All of these tiny misfires, gaps, or rewires are part of your daily life. They shape what you think is real, and you never notice, because your mind doesn't alert you when it makes a guess. It tells you it's a fact. You don't just live in a body. You live in a simulator, constantly adapting, constantly predicting, constantly convincing you that this blurry, buzzing, flickering feed is a steady stream of reality. But sometimes it slips. And when it does, you glimpse the truth. You're not experiencing the world. You're experiencing your model of it. Imagine staring at a photograph, a child on a bicycle, trees in the background, one tire hidden behind a fence. You don't question it. You see the whole bike, even though part of it isn't there. That's not passive observation. That's your brain taking shortcuts. And it does this all the time. Right now, you have two blind spots literally. Each of your eyes has a spot where the optic nerve exits the retina, a place with zero light receptors. You don't see blackness there. You see nothing because your brain fills in the missing data using context. You're not observing the world. You're constructing it. Think about when you read. You don't see every single letter. Your brain glides across the page, predicting words before you finish them. That's why you can spot a typo in someone else's post, but miss your own. Your brain auto-completed the error into correctness. Same with faces. You can recognize someone across a room in bad lighting, even if you only see half their profile. Your brain has stored a face map, and it interpolates the rest. That's why deepfakes work. They hijack your facial prediction software. It gets stranger. When you watch a movie, you're actually seeing 24 still images per second. There are literal black frames between each one. But your brain stitches them together so smoothly, you experience motion. This is called beta movement. Your brain hates gaps, so it erases them. Even your sense of time is fake. Try this. Clap your hands once, then again, but with a half-second delay, then faster. At some point, it feels like both claps blur. Your brain is merging sound and motion into one sensory event. It's not waiting to gather all the facts. It's predicting what's about to happen and backfilling with confidence. Because that's what the brain does best: predict and pretend. And it's efficient. If you had to consciously process every pixel of vision, every decibel of sound, every scent and sensation, you'd shut down. So the brain compresses. It guesses. It gets it mostly right, until it doesn't. That's why eyewitnesses remember different versions of the same event. Why car crashes seem to slow down in real time. Why your dreams sometimes feel more vivid than reality. They're assembled from the same guessing engine, but without the filter of the outside world. This ability to fill in the blanks is what makes perception feel smooth, continuous, trustworthy. But once you realize how much is fabricated, you start asking questions. What else am I seeing that isn't really there? What am I not seeing that is? What if your clearest vision is just the cleanest illusion? You're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down. Your heart races, palms sweat. Every cell in your body screams, "Back up." You obey. That wasn't reason. That wasn't philosophy. That was your sensory system, hardwired by evolution to keep you alive, even if it means lying to you. Your fear of heights isn't about falling. It's about trusting your balance, your sight, your perception of space. And evolution didn't give you perfect tools. It gave you good enough tools. Let's rewind a few million years. You're a hominid on the savannah. You see a rustle in the grass. Could be wind. Could be a lion. If you assume lion and you're wrong, you waste energy. If you assume wind and you're wrong, you're dinner. Natural selection doesn't reward accuracy. It rewards survival bias. And so, evolution sculpted our senses to favor speed over truth. We developed shortcuts. If it moves fast, it's dangerous. If it's loud, pay attention. If it glows red, stop. These rules still run in your software. That's why red means danger. Why sudden noises spike your adrenaline. Why you think someone's staring at you from across a room, even if they aren't. Your senses evolved to detect patterns, even false ones, if it helped your ancestors survive. You know those optical illusions where lines look bent but are straight? That's because your ancestors navigated three-dimensional forests, not flat diagrams. Your vision system evolved in trees, not textbooks. And what about faces? You can spot a face in a cartoon cloud or a power socket. That's hyperactive agency detection, an evolutionary gift. If you saw a face and ran, you lived. If you missed one, you died. So your brain became paranoid, always assuming there's someone there, just in case. But evolution's trade-offs come at a cost. You're fast to fear. You're quick to misjudge. You trust sensations that were built for a world long gone. That's why we fall for scams, why we overreact to shadows, why food packaging tricks us into thinking it tastes better. We weren't shaped to find the truth. We were shaped to find the next meal and to avoid becoming one. Even your sense of self, that inner narrator, that voice that says, "I'm here, I exist," may be a byproduct, a convenient illusion that helped the organism survive. So when you ask, why do I trust my senses? The real answer is, because the ones who didn't survive. And yet, now that we're no longer dodging predators, we start to wonder, if evolution shaped perception for survival, not truth, then what is the truth? You're watching a movie. A character walks through snow, and you hear the crunch of footsteps. You feel the cold. But there's no snow, no wind, no footsteps. Just pixels on a screen and sound from a speaker. So why does your body react like it's real? Because when your senses line up, the illusion holds. But when they don't, that's when things get interesting. Welcome to the world of sensory conflict. Your body relies on multiple systems to understand the world: sight, sound, touch, balance, and more. Normally, they agree. But when they disagree, your brain has to choose a side. And sometimes, it chooses wrong. Ever been carsick? You're sitting still, looking at your phone, but the car is moving. Your inner ear feels the motion, but your eyes say you're not. The result? Nausea. Your brain can't reconcile the input, so it assumes you've been poisoned. Literally, that's why you feel sick. It's trying to make you throw up a toxin that isn't there. That's just one example. Ever worn a VR headset? You look down and see a cliff. Your feet are on the floor, but your body feels like it's falling. The visual system screams, "We're in danger." The balance system says, "We're fine." You get disoriented. Some people even faint. The illusion is so powerful that reality bends in response. Then there's the ventriloquist effect, when sound and sight clash. You see a puppet's mouth move while a voice comes from a different source. Your brain resolves the conflict by assuming the sound came from the moving mouth. The puppet talks, even when you know better. Why does the brain do this? Because unity matters more than accuracy. Your brain wants a coherent narrative, even if it has to fake one. It smooths over contradictions. It silences one sense in favor of another. It makes a decision, even if it's wrong. But this power can be used for good or manipulation. Think of advertising. The crunch of chips is exaggerated in sound design. Your brain hears fresh, and your mouth tastes it, even if the real chip is stale. Or horror movies. Low-frequency sounds you can barely hear make your skin crawl, enhancing the visuals on screen. Even touch isn't safe. In multisensory illusions, researchers place one hand on a table and hide the other. When they stroke both a rubber hand and your hidden real hand at the same time, your brain transfers ownership. You feel the rubber hand is yours. You flinch when it's hit. This isn't just a party trick. It reveals something fundamental. Your sense of reality is negotiated between conflicting inputs. It's a conversation. And sometimes it's an argument. And in those moments when the story breaks, you catch a glimpse of the puppeteer behind your perception. Next, we explore something more subtle, but even more dangerous. How belief bends perception and perception feeds belief. You think you see the world first and form opinions after. But what if it's the opposite? What if you believe first, and then your senses fill in the blanks? Let's start with a simple test. Two people watch the same video of a police officer using force. One sees necessary action. The other sees abuse. Same footage. Different truth. So what's going on? Welcome to confirmation bias, your brain's tendency to interpret sensory data in ways that support what you already believe. It's not a bug. It's a feature, an efficiency tool. Your mind can't process every detail equally, so it filters through your existing worldview. If something contradicts that worldview, your brain treats it as noise or even a threat. You literally don't see it. In one study, subjects were shown blurry images of guns and tools. When told the person in the image was a criminal, participants were more likely to identify a neutral object as a weapon. The belief warped the perception. And it's not just what you see, it's what you hear too. Ever gotten into a heated argument where the other person swears they never said that? They might be right. Your memory and even your hearing was filtered through emotion, through belief. Think about it. Your brain isn't interested in objective truth. It's interested in coherence. It wants the world to make sense to you, even if that means editing reality. And it goes deeper. Once you accept a belief about people, politics, science, even yourself, your senses go to work defending it. You notice things that support it. You ignore or rationalize the rest. Your eyes and ears become yes men, nodding along. Even your attention isn't neutral. You glance past data that threatens your identity, like skipping a paragraph in an uncomfortable article or zoning out when someone challenges your view. You're not lying to yourself. You just didn't notice. This feedback loop between perception and belief is how cults work, how propaganda works, how self-loathing works. You see the world that fits your narrative. And if your narrative is broken, your vision is too. And now for the unsettling part. This loop is invisible. It feels like truth. You trust your senses because they feel so immediate, so real. But if your beliefs can warp them, then whose eyes are you really seeing through? And so we're left with a creeping thought. If perception bends to belief, can we ever escape our own lens? You sit on a quiet bench, watching the sunset, and think, I'll remember this forever. But the truth is, you won't. At least, not the way you think you will. Memory feels like a vault, a secure archive you can open any time, pulling out crisp scenes from your past. But neuroscience tells a different story. Memory isn't a vault. It's a construction site. When you remember something, your brain isn't playing a recording. It's rebuilding the scene from scratch. And each time it does, tiny changes slip in, details blur, new information creeps in, emotion reshapes context. Eventually, the original is gone. What's left is a story you've told yourself enough times that you believe it. This is why eyewitness testimony is famously unreliable. In one study, participants watched a car crash video. When asked, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? People reported much higher speeds than when asked the same question with the word hit. One word changed their memory. And it gets weirder. People have been implanted with false memories of being lost in a mall as a child, or meeting Bugs Bunny at Disneyland, which is impossible because he's a Warner Brothers character. Yet they swear it happened. They see it in their mind's eye. They even recall details. Why? Because memory is tied to imagination. When you visualize something vividly enough, your brain may tag it as real. Your emotional response reinforces the illusion, and soon it becomes your truth. But it doesn't stop at facts. Your memory also rewrites you. You remember yourself being more generous than you were, or more patient, or maybe more of a victim. You tweak past conversations to justify current emotions. You soften the blame you should have taken, or amplify the blame you placed on others. Memory isn't just about storing the past. It's about protecting the present. This malleability serves a purpose. It helps you recover from trauma, maintain a coherent identity. But it also means you may be living inside fiction and calling it truth. Think of it this way. You are the main character of your own novel. But every time you flip back a page, you're editing the lines, scribbling notes in the margin, changing the plot, and eventually, you forget what the original story was. So if your memories lie, your beliefs distort, and your senses deceive, what's left? You're in a room with 10 people. You see smoke, but no one moves. Do you leave or do you wait? In a famous social psychology experiment, subjects sat in a room filling out forms. Suddenly, smoke began seeping through the vents. When they were alone, most participants got up within minutes. But when others stayed still, especially actors planted to remain calm, many sat and did nothing. Some waited up to 20 minutes, even coughing as the smoke grew thick. Why? Because reality is social. You don't just see the world, you check it with others. This is called pluralistic ignorance, and it's just one way we rely on collective agreement to make sense of things. But it goes deeper. We trust what others seem to believe. If everyone says the emperor has clothes, you begin to doubt your own eyes. If your entire community believes in ghosts or gods or conspiracies, your brain takes that as validation. Social agreement becomes evidence. And that's terrifying, because it means your reality is partially outsourced to your culture, to your language, to your peers, your parents, your phone screen. Even things you're sure you know, like that Paris is in France, or that the sun will rise tomorrow, are beliefs reinforced through consensus, not first-hand experience. You've probably never personally measured the Earth's curvature, but you believe it's round because enough people you trust say it is. And that trust is vital until it's exploited. Which brings us to propaganda. If you control the group, you can control the truth. This is why authoritarians fear dissent. It's not just dangerous speech, it's dangerous reality. A single voice saying, "This isn't real," can crack the illusion for everyone. So how do you know it's real? Sometimes you don't. You just take the collective word for it. And sometimes the crowd is right. But when it's wrong, you may be the last to know. You may never see the world as it truly is. But you can start by questioning whose eyes you're looking through. Take a look at this sentence. I saw her duck. Now pause. What did you just read? Was someone dodging an object? Or was there a small waterfowl involved? Your interpretation depends on the frame your brain applied. You don't choose the frame, it chooses you, often before you've consciously registered the sentence. This is what philosophers and cognitive scientists call framing, and it governs your perception more than you'd like to admit. Let's go bigger. Say the word freedom. What comes to mind? Depends on your country, your politics, your parents, your trauma. To a protester, freedom means the right to speak. To a soldier, it might mean national defense. To someone in a toxic relationship, it's escape. Same word, different frame, different world. Your mind doesn't process raw information like a camera. It packages it, labels it, gives it context. And that context shapes everything. Here's the kicker. Change the frame, and you change the truth. A man yelling in the street? Crazy, unless he's preaching, or rallying, or protesting, or selling something. The context decides whether he's dismissed or celebrated. News headlines do this every day. Protesters clash with police, frames both sides as equal. Police fire on demonstrators, changes the power dynamic. Same event, different emotional response. Even your emotions are framed. You're not just sad, you're sad because it's Monday, or because you failed, or because she left. You build stories around your feelings, and those stories trap you in patterns. Think about this in relationships. If your partner snaps at you, you might frame it as they're stressed, or they don't respect me. That single choice, how you frame it, decides whether you forgive, fight, or walk away. And this goes all the way down to identity. You don't just exist, you exist as a victim, a survivor, a fraud, a genius. The role you assign yourself filters your perception of others. of chance, of success and failure. So what happens when the frame cracks? Reality shimmers. You see other options, other angles. And maybe, for a second, you realize you weren't seeing the truth. You were seeing a version of it. And that's what epistemology whispers in your ear every day. The frame isn't the picture, but you've been staring through it for so long, you forgot there's a world beyond the glass. You step into a museum, you stand before a painting, and you think, I'm just observing. But you're not. You're bringing your culture, your mood, your memories, your hunger even, and they're all whispering in your ear. What's important? What's beautiful? What's true? This isn't a glitch. It's a feature. You are not a camera. You are a lens curved by experience, tinted by emotion, dusted with assumptions you don't even know you have. In science, this was a hard pill to swallow. For centuries, thinkers tried to strip themselves of bias to become objective observers. They wore lab coats like armor. They followed methods like religion. They believed that if they looked hard enough, they'd see the world as it truly is. But then came quantum physics. Suddenly, the act of observing was found to change the thing being observed. Light behaves differently depending on whether you're watching it. Particles collapse into one state or another only when measured. The universe doesn't reveal itself neutrally. It responds to attention. And outside the lab, things get even murkier. A journalist reporting the facts still chooses which facts to show. A teacher presenting both sides still decides what's worth teaching. Even silence is a kind of position. You can't escape your viewpoint. But here's the trick. Neither can anyone else. And yet, people weaponize objectivity all the time. I'm just being logical. I'm unbiased. This is the neutral take. But strip away the tone, and you'll often find a smuggled worldview underneath. A value system hiding behind facts. A judgment wrapped in data. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to be fair. It means you should stop pretending you're floating outside the world looking in. You're inside it, always. You see through a keyhole. Not the full room. But that awareness of your own framing, your own blind spots, can be a kind of clarity. You stop demanding certainty. You start asking better questions. And that's where we're heading. You're lying in bed. It's quiet. And your mind starts wondering, am I dreaming right now? You look at your hands. They seem real. You pinch yourself. It hurts. But you've dreamed that before, too. Now what? This is the classic skeptic's problem. If your senses can be fooled, if your memories can be false, if your reasoning can mislead you, then what can you actually know? Descartes famously said, I think, therefore I am. He meant, if nothing else, I know that something is thinking, doubting, experiencing right now, even if I'm in a simulation, even if a demon is tricking me, even if the world isn't real. There is still a me doing the wondering, but even that isn't much to live on. So let's flip the question, not, what can I know for sure, but what can I live with enough confidence to act? Epistemologists call this fallibilism, the idea that we can believe things without needing absolute certainty. You don't need 100% proof the bridge will hold. You just need enough reason to cross it. Every decision you've ever made followed this logic. You trust people, knowing they might lie. You make plans, knowing they might fall apart. You love, knowing it might hurt. So maybe the real strength isn't in knowing for sure. It's in choosing to move forward despite not knowing. It's in saying, this belief might be wrong, but it's the best one I have right now. And being humble enough to change it when better evidence comes. That's not weakness. That's epistemic courage. Because here's the secret philosophers rarely tell you. Certainty is the refuge of fear, but curiosity? That's where truth begins. So the next time someone demands, "How can you know that's true?" smile and ask, "What kind of truth are you looking for?" Now the lights are low, the journey's complete, and all that's left is a whisper. You can't trust everything you perceive, but you can trust your willingness to keep asking. Sleep easy, seeker. The questions will be here in the morning.